Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Williams. I am the Director of the Office of Multicultural Programs at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. I also have the honor of being Director of the Summer Medical and Dental Education Program. And I'd like to spend the next few minutes talking to you about our program. And I will refer to the Summer Medical and Dental Education Program by its acronym SMDEP. It's designed to increase the number of underrepresented students who are well prepared for careers in medicine and dentistry. If you look at the numbers of minority and disadvantaged students in this country, you'll find that their percentage of the physician and medical force is far lower than the comparable number would be. And many people believe that increasing the numbers of underrepresented individuals in careers in medicine is a good way to reduce, to address the problem of health disparities in the United States, because individuals who are underrepresented in medicine and in dentistry are much more likely to return to those communities and provide their professional services. SMDP is a free 6-week summer program designed to increase the number of URMs who are well prepared for careers in medicine and dentistry. The program has been funded for the last 25 years by the Robert Johnson Foundation. There are 12 sites scattered throughout the United States, and each site selects 80 students to participate in this program during the summer. These photos that you'll see scattered throughout my presentation are all students who've served in our program at some point over the last 3 years. So this is a list of the 12 SMDP sites in the United States. And I might point out that UCLA is one of those 12, and it's the only one that's here in California. And I happen to know the individuals who run that program, and it is truly an outstanding program, and I very highly recommend it to you all, that you apply to it if you're interested. In order to be eligible for SMDP, you have to be a freshman or sophomore at the time of application. So if you're sitting here right now and you decide, I want to apply for SMDP this summer, if you're a freshman or a sophomore, then you can participate. You must have, you ought to have a minimum of a 2.5 GPA in order to be eligible, but I must also tell you that if you apply as a freshman and you apply, say, in November when applications go online, we will not know what your GPA is. And it actually, for most of the sites, we don't really care that much. We figure if you are just a semester into college, and by the time you get to us, we still have lots of time to help you become an even stronger student, if you have been struggling a little bit early on. You must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident in order to participate in SMDEP, and the individual sites do not have any discretion in that matter, I should add. So I know that a number of my colleagues, some of the programs, would actually be happy to have students participating who are not citizens or not permanent residents, but our funders do not allow us that option, so we cannot do that, or we'll put our funding at risk. And lastly, you must have demonstrated in some fashion an interest in medicine or dentistry in order to be eligible to participate in the program. And there are other considerations that the 12 sites take in, that they think about when they're trying to make decisions about who to accept and who not to accept. We often ask our question, is this person a member of or identifies with individuals who are underrepresented in medicine or dentistry? And I want to be very clear, we're not saying only minority students can participate. That is far from the truth. We're very much interested. We know that there are many people, many students who are certainly passionate about health issues, diversity issues, about health disparities issues, and who would like to make a contribution. We understand that, we appreciate that, and that will be considered when we are reviewing your application. Another consideration is, does a person come from a disadvantaged background? Or has that individual, that applicant, demonstrated an interest in people who are from disadvantaged backgrounds? And again, I'm going to say, you do not have to yourself have grown up disadvantaged in order to be eligible for this program. Some schools will not accept students some of these programs, sites, will not accept students who have already taken most of the classes, which makes sense. We do not, it's never fun to be sitting in on a class where you've seen all the material or most of the material, and excuse me, it often turns out not to be good for the administrators of such programs either, to have a student who has seen the vast majority of the students. So if you apply and you do not get accepted, it's not because we thought there was something horribly wrong with you, or even wrong with you at all. It's just that the site may have looked at your transcript and seen that you've taken most of the classes, you've done very well in them, and made the calculation that you would not benefit in a major way by participating in the program. One of the things that I look at, and I know that at least a few of my colleagues look at, but not everybody, when we're trying to put together a class, the 80 students every summer, is I try to select about a third of the students who I know will go to medical school or dental school. It's just clear in looking at their application that they're gonna do fine. And then I like to find about another third of the student who it looks like probably there's a good chance that these individuals will be able to go to medical school or dental school, but it's not the probabilities are not really high, but it seems like they probably could do it. And then there's a third for whom I think they ought to be able to go to medical school or dental school, but it doesn't look like they're headed in that direction. And that typically means that, I think that the student, we have the feeling that they are underperforming, that there's something about that we see in the applications, that we see in the letters of recommendations, that we see in the 2 essays that are written. They're indicators that with a lot of effort, the thing that they're starting to call grit, that maybe the student can pull it out, and maybe that we can make a significant contribution in getting that student over a big hump. And so some people think, oh, with just each of the 12 sites, we're going to just select the 80 most promising students, the 80 students who show the greatest amount of academic prowess. We'll select those students for the program, and we absolutely do not do that. So I want to be clear want to be clear about that. One of the things that I like about our program is that we have students from all over the place. The woman in the center here was born and spent her early years in Egypt, and in fact is Muslim. And these two other students, and the woman in the middle is a teaching assistant and resident assistant in our program. And these two other students who are on either side of her both participated in SMDEP last summer. And SMDEP occurs during Ramadan, and there were about, I think, 8 or 10 students who fasted sort of as a show of support for the Muslim students, and these two women decided to put the scarves on as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the curriculum that we have. CWRU is Case Western Reserve University. That's the program that I direct, and we're located in Cleveland, Ohio. I understand that people in California have not heard about Case Western Reserve, so that's what the CWRU stands for. In our program, all students have a choice between taking general chemistry or organic chemistry, cell biology or biochemistry. There are 2 different levels of physics, essentially, for those who've had physics already and those who have not. There are 3 different math classes. We have a very popular writing strategies class where we randomly divide the students into 4 groups of 20, and each group has its own instructor, and they spend most of the 6 weeks working on a personal statement and crafting a personal statement, which we hope will be a good starting point for students who will later be better prepared to write one, to use that one as a starting point for when they apply to medical and dental school. They go through several drafts, and they get lots of good pointers on how to write a good personal statement. One of the hallmarks of the SMDEP program at Case Western Reserve is that about a month before our summer program begins, we send a book out that we've selected to all the students in the program, and enclosed is a note for me explaining that, so why I selected the book, which may be a fiction or nonfiction, and may not have anything to do with medicine or health-related issues, but I explained to them why I selected this particular book, and that they need to have the book read by the time they show up on our campus for the first day, because the second day that they arrive, which will be a Sunday, we will give them a prompt and give them 90 minutes to write an essay about that prompt. And I end the letter by saying that the writing instructors for the writing strategies classes, I've asked them to evaluate those essays, and the 6 or 8 best writers of the 6 or 8 best essays will take them to the Cheesecake Factory for dinner. Cheesecake Factory is not one of my favorite places except for dessert, but the students seem to pretty uniformly like it, so that's what we do. And when the students arrive on campus the very first day, we give them a backpack, and among the contents in that backpack is a second book that we also expect them to read in the first 2 or 3 weeks that they're in the program. People often wonder, this is a science program designed to help students do better, become better prepared in medicine and dentistry. Why are you having them read books? Well, part of it is that there's a fair amount of research that indicates that, and many of the people who spend a lot of time thinking about standardized test scores believe that standardized test scores are essentially reading tests. People who read well do well on standardized tests. And many of the students in our program, the vast majority, are science majors. Science majors are notorious for not doing a lot of reading for pleasure, and which I always thought because they spend so much time in the labs. But in any case, we feel that this is an important part of what we do with our students, and so we're trying to get them to see that reading can be fun, that it can be enjoyable, and if we can help them see that, then it'll increase the chances of them actually picking up a book more than once or twice a year and reading it, even though it's not required. And I might add that we have one of the SMDP sites is at Duke School of Medicine, and for more than 10 years, we have myself and the director of that program have selected a book, and the one that we sent out a month in advance, and our students have a teleconference, with a big screen so that they can see the students from the other site, and we can see them, and it's all live, and the students mostly talk back and forth, ask one another questions and so forth about the book. When we started doing this more than 10 years ago, it was that sort of played with the technology, and but the students still enjoy it, even though the technology is now a bit old. Our students do spend some time studying, which I think you can see here. This photo was taken in the basement of the dormitory. One of the important aspects of our program is to introduce students to public health topics. And so on the second or third day of the program, we randomly divide students up into groups of about 6, and we assign them a faculty member as an advisor. And we ask each group to come up with a topic that they are all interested in, and to spend the next 5.5 weeks doing research on a particular topic and a particular problem. And the day before the program ends, each group gives a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation. They're up on a stage. They all talk and participate, where they discuss the problem that they've identified, some of their solutions, what funding might be available, and what they think they might be able to accomplish. At the conclusion of the presentation, we have a panel of faculty members from the medical school, mostly scientists, who will ask them some questions, and then the other members of the program will have an opportunity to ask some questions as well. And we do a lot of things to try to provide some support for the students. For example, we do have one of our reference librarians come up in that first week to talk about some of the services that the library can offer, suggest sites on the internet that are reliable and that they could use for their research. And I've been really happy to see how the students have really taken this project quite seriously. In many ways, for the vast majority of students, it is the high point, actually next to the best high point of the program, because they like the idea of being able to stand on a stage all dressed up and to show what they know. And so that's been very nice and satisfying for all of us. And so our students don't always study. They do other things as well. And there are a number of other special workshops and talks that are given throughout the 6 weeks of the program. One of the things that we do is there's a wonderful learning specialist who some of you may have seen yesterday, Dr. Hy Doyle from UCLA. He comes out and over a 2-day period does 2 4-hour workshops on how to become a better learner. He's so good, I'm always afraid that students will go to his workshop, which occurs in the first week of our program, and they'll just say, well, this is really a great program, and they'll leave because they've gotten so much and will recognize that they've received so much from that workshop. We also have 2 2-hour workshops on financial planning, and I want to be very clear, this is not a workshop on financial aid, but financial planning, which is a much broader topic that students, even those who are in freshman or sophomore year of college, need to learn more about. I should have mentioned that 9 of the 12 SMDEP programs also have dental schools. Duke, Yale, and I think University of Virginia do not have dental schools, so they do not have the dental component in their programs. They are medicine only. But those of us who do, we are required to have a minimum of 20 pre-med students, 20 pre-dental students in our program. And sometimes, that's difficult. There are not nearly as many applicants for dental school as there are from medical school. So if you're sitting out in the audience and you are a first or second year and a pre-dental, we especially want you to apply because we'd like to have many more applicants in that program. I already talked about the reading focus. I skipped one of the workshops that the students enjoy a great deal. We have a pretty active music therapy program, especially with our Cancer Center, and the person who heads up the music therapy department comes in. We give her 90 minutes, and she comes in to give a presentation, but she brings an instrument for every single student in the room. So I try to schedule that sort of later in the day because the room rocks when she comes in, and she has lots of wonderful footage showing the wonders that music can do in helping patients get better. I confess I was not much of a believer when I first learned about music therapy about 15 years ago, but she's made me a believer. Every student in our program, every participant, has a one-on-one meeting with our Dean of Admissions or the Director of Admissions at the School of Medicine or the School of Dentistry. And these individuals have electronic access to the student's SMDEP application. And so they know a lot about the students, including they'll see their transcript, they'll see their 2 essays, and a lot of demographic information. And this is not an interview, but it's a conversation, it's a meeting. And I've asked our admissions people to tell the students, suggest to them how they might make themselves more competitive, and if they're on the right track to being competitive for medical or dental school. But I also asked the students to come with some questions that they want to ask the admissions, our admissions folks, and that's really important, important benefit in our program. We have a medical and dental school fair. There are about 15 to 18 schools that show up for that every year, and the item I listed last year, clinical experiences, is what the students most enjoy. Most of our students, if I said you can just skip classes and just spend time in clinical setting, they wouldn't think twice about going to class. But I always remind them that the clinical time, the time they spend in a clinical setting, it's important that they do that, but the number of minority and disadvantaged students who are not going to medical school, the numbers are low. It does not have much to do with those students not having clinical experiences. It has a lot more to do with the production or how they do in classes. So I am sort of a stickler for that. If you're supposed to be in class, you need to be in class, or you have to come and talk to me. This is a medical school, a dental school fair that we had about 4 years ago, I think. We work our students hard, but we give them some things in return. We give them 3 meals a day, every single day. They sleep in a dormitory every single night. They receive a $600 stipend. For students who we deem to be disadvantaged, financially disadvantaged, we will pay a maximum of $300 for towards their travel assistance. Most years, our students go to Cedar Point, which I'm told is one of the 2 best amusement parks in the U.S. Every year we go ice skating. There's a ice skating rink not much more than a mile from our campus, and our campus is located in Cleveland's cultural centers and called University Circle. And this is a Cleveland Indians game that our students went to a few years ago. Oh, and I should add that it doesn't look like the stadium is really full, but there are a lot of people in that stadium on that particular day. It's just that we paid for the tickets and we got nosebleed seats, so there were not as many of those that were occupied. So if you go to www.smdep.org, you can find information on all 12 of the SMDEP sites, and there's even a table there where you can compare some of the sites. So I encourage you to do that. Applications will be available online at that same website on November 1st, which I think must be coming up fairly soon. And so it's important. So that's where you can get the applications. I always encourage students to apply early. Last year, we received about 450 applications for SMDEP, and there were about 125 that we never looked at because by the time we received those applications, we had selected all of our students. And so it pays to get the applications in early. The final deadline for submission of applications is March 1st. When you apply, you can select 3 of the 12 sites that you're interested in, all in the same application. You don't have to rank them. Just indicate which 3 you're interested in. Be sure you look on the website to see what the differences are. There's a lot of similarity between the sites, but there are some differences as well, and you need to find out. For example, some sites do not pay any money for transportation because they have other costs that are so high that they can't afford to do that. All the sites do provide the $600 stipend for the students. Once a program is over, the services and I think the benefits of the program do not stop there. The students report to us that they typically return to their home schools more confident and better prepared to handle upper-level courses that many of them will begin to take in their sophomore and junior year. they have upwards of 79 or so new friends and peers who have similar goals to them. And especially, I think, for some of the minority students and students who are disadvantaged, it's their first time when they've been in a setting where they are people from similar backgrounds who are also highly motivated, and they find some special great pleasure in the program in that regard. They also have the advantage of an opportunity to meet a number of our faculty members at the medical school, and a number of the administrators, and a number of our medical students. We're sure that we take care that all those things happen, and they also are meeting individuals who are on our admissions committee, and we do that. It's done intentionally. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. There's a speaker over there, and there's one over here, if anybody has any questions.
Hi, my name's Alexis, and I'm from Hartnell Community College, and I was wondering where your program is located.
Okay, we're in Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that Cleveland, Ohio is a little bit of a ways from we're from the Bay Area, and so people don't know. I've actually been places in Michigan where people ask me, and it's one state over, where is Case Western Reserve? So thank you for asking that question. I should have mentioned that earlier.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's a rolling admission process, right? For the general SMDEP program?
Yes, that's correct.
How long does it take on average for an application to be reviewed, and if chosen, then accepted?
Once we receive the entire application, which includes the 2 letters of recommendations, in general it takes 2 to 3 weeks before, because the applications will go to our national program office in Washington, D.C., and once they collect all the information, including the transcript and letters of recommendations, then they send it out to the 3 sites that the students were interested in. And I think that March 15th is the first day that we send out notices about whether or not students have been accepted or not. And the regulations say that we can select up to a half of the class by that date, and then we wait a while. I don't remember. It must be probably the end of March when we can select the other half of the students.
So everyone is told at the same time on March 15th if they were accepted or not?
Say again?
Everyone is told at the same time on March 15th if they're accepted or not?
Everyone whose application we have received, that we've received by March 1st, roughly, will find out on March 15th if they've been accepted or not. Now, there have been a lot of other people who would have submitted applications, but they have not been processed yet. And in fact, I think it's something like a third of the people who applied to SMDP applied 24 hours before the deadline. And when I said earlier there were 125 applications we never looked at, it was mostly those people.
Okay. So is there a limit to how many seats there are? Say, are there 500 seats, just to throw out a number?
There are 80 seats in each program.
Oh, okay.
Is that the answer to your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, each site has 80 students, and as I said, the 9 sites that have pre-dental and pre-med, we have to take a minimum of 20 pre-dental slots. Yes, sir.
Armand Neal from Bakersfield College. I have a question regarding what you stated earlier. You said that freshmen and sophomores are the ones that that you're looking for. That's a part of the criteria for the mentorship. What are there any exceptions for community college students that have been there past 2 years? That's my question.
If I understand you correct, you're saying that reiterating what I said, that the program is designed for freshman and sophomore year students, and then you said that there's students in community college, and I'm guessing that the rest of the sentence, the rest of the thought was, if those students are not going full time, maybe they've been there 3 years, but still have sophomore status, would they be eligible?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I might mention that the UCLA SMDEP program, well, we all accept students from community colleges, but the UCLA program, their program actually focuses on students who have, who are attending community colleges. And so they are, I mean, that's part of the core group of students that they're interested in, but they certainly accept students from four-year institutions. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Tri Cove from Kenyatta College. In regards to the letters of recommendation, do you guys prefer to see one, a choice of preference from which professors do you prefer to see the letters of rec from, such as physics, math, or chemistry, for example? Or what if someone gets one from like an English professor or something like that?
Well, we mostly we like to receive letters of recommendations from people who know you and know you fairly well, and mostly faculty members.
Yeah.
We understand that if you are a freshman and you still are taking classes in these large, large stadiums or whatever, that you may not know many faculty well. And so we occasionally will accept if there is a letter from someone, one teacher from high school who knew you really well, and then another one from maybe a pre-health advisor or something like that. But we understand, again, especially for freshmen, that can be daunting in November of your freshman year to get a letter of recommendation.
So a letter from rec from like your high school teacher senior year would also be fine.
We will accept one of those.
All right, and also another one. You mentioned GPA as a freshman. Could you kind of like reiterate that again about the minimum?
Well, I think what I said is there's a point on the slide where it said the minimum GPA accepted was, I think it was 2.5 or something, and I was indicating that the applications are due. If you're a freshman right now, and this is October and November, and you actually did what I'm asking you to do, apply November. When I received your application, because it's so early, I received it in January, there's no transcript there. I don't know what your GPA is. And what I'm telling you is that it doesn't matter that much, because you are a freshman, you're so early in your career. We will weigh much more the letters of recommendations that have been written about you by your teachers. I personally, when I open up an application for SMDEP, the first thing I read are the two short essays that we've asked you to write. And part of this, because I'm an English major, I love to read, and I think I can learn a lot about a person just by what they say and how they say, what they're saying in the application. So 80% of my mind is made up just by reading the essays, even if I've not seen the transcript and the other stuff.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had one more question. In respect to the letters of recommendation, because for example, in my situation, I'm just a freshman, Would a letter of recommendation from an outside source be acceptable, such as a manager or supervisor from an employment?
If that's the best that you can do, we will accept it. Part of what we're trying to do with SMDP is to get you all ready for medical school and dental school. And so you'll find that the SMDP application looks sort of like a knockoff from those other applications. And so part of what we want you to do is get in the practice of asking someone to write your letter of recommendation. And by the way, we tell our students every year, do not send an email to a faculty member who's on your campus asking if they will write a letter of recommendation. You should go to them and say, Professor Wilson, do you feel comfortable writing me a strong letter of recommendation? And so I know that because you're a freshman, you may not be, you probably, especially at such a relatively large institution, you may not be there yet. So get 2 letters of recommendations. I can tell you that the letters are, the form, they can put check marks. They don't have to write a letter if they don't want to. So the letter of recommendation, this form, will be happy to receive a letter, and probably 80% of the people, in addition to checking the boxes, they get, a letter gets written, but they wouldn't. But it's not necessary that a long letter certainly be written.
Okay. And how is it factored having a letter of recommendation from, say, one of the biological or physical sciences versus a social science? Does it matter?
It does not matter a whole lot for SMDP. It does matter big time for medical school and dental school.
Okay.
And again, if it happens, the faculty members who know you the best are in the humanities, then go with that. We're not trying to make this a really big deal. We don't want people, stressing out too much over this process.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I should also have said early on that a lot of there's a great deal of similarity in the material that is taught at a lot of the other SNDP sites around the country, but there are also some differences. So I don't want anybody to think that every site reads 2 books. In fact, I know that we're the only one that reads more than one, and there's some that don't read any. Yes, sir.
Although I'm over 2 years going on in community college, does that jeopardize my application for SMDEP since I've taken most of the classes that were listed on the screen?
Okay. Some medical schools do have a bias against students who've taken a lot of their health, the pre-med, pre-dental classes, particularly the sciences, from community colleges. It's a little bit different. In fact, it's a lot different in California because you all known to have lots of very fine community colleges. I mean, it's unheard of in most places in this country that a student could go to a community college and then go to, some of the famous, some of the best universities in the country that you all have, and not so far from here, that regularly happens here. There's hardly any other place in the country where that happens. There are places that may have a state might have one really good community college that would send students to outstanding schools, but you have a bunch of them apparently. And people in medical education, in dental education, know where some of those schools are. But I should also say, if you have taken all of your sciences and math classes at a community college and you bust out with some really good DAT or MCAT scores, they will overlook the community, the fact that you've taken those classes at the community colleges. They'll figure you learned a lot there. So that's your sort of protection.
Because the reason why I asked that question is because it's for you to transfer from community college, you have to do a lot of things in order for you to get to a university. And a lot of them range from most of the things that are shown on the screen also collide with engineering courses as well. So it's going to be like an additional thing. Plus I have a lot of units since I had to take those classes. So that's why I was wondering why it was going to be so much of a risk for me, because I've been there for multiple years, and I did it also when I did community college when I was in high school as well. So, yeah, I did the application before, and I didn't get accepted. So I was thinking maybe it was because of that reason.
You're saying you applied to SMDEP in the past?
Yeah, actually last year.
Last year. Well, without seeing the application, and even if I saw it, I wouldn't be able to necessarily tell you what happened. But I can tell you, as I said twice already, a lot of the applications to our site, at least, went unread last year because by the time we received the applications, we were already full. And I know that some of the other sites, I know that Duke, Columbia, Yale, they get 600-700 applications. I would be surprised if all those got read. And so, the students who submit them earlier have a big advantage. But I would not assume that, I certainly would not assume that, well, because they saw that you were in community college or anybody else was in community college, that you were taking lots of science classes that, that worked against you. Most of us, in fact, I think it's fair to say all of us in the SMDEP world, we apply for these grants, this grant, and all of us have had them for almost a decade at least, because we are deeply committed to opening education to everybody and providing everybody as much as many opportunities as we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name's Anai, and I'm from Arizona State University. I was wondering if it would be possible to apply to multiple locations. Like, you stated that you can select 3 sites from an application, but would it be possible to submit another application and have another 3 sites?
Right. The answer to your question is no.
No.
You can apply one time only, and on that one application, you can indicate up to 3 sites that you're interested in.
All right. And since I'm currently a freshman, if I do not get accepted into the program, would I be able to apply again the following year?
Yes, if you do not get accepted this year, the first year, if you're a freshman now, you could apply the following year. I think it's sort of hard. I shouldn't say that. I think if you take the application seriously, that everybody has a really good chance. I see applications, I told you about the 2 essays. I will look at an application sometime and I'll see that for one of the essays, or both the essays, a person has written maybe 3 sentences. We've given them a half a page and they've written 3 sentences. That says to me their mother probably told them, you have to do this or else. Or the professor said, you need to apply to this, and so they want to meet the requirement, and so they do that. And it's clear to me that they're not taking it seriously. I don't think for most of the sites, especially if you're a freshman, a low GPA is not going to prevent you, well, by itself will not prevent you from getting in. So I think if you take the application seriously and you get it in early, the chances are very high for most people.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I think all the questions have been asked. Thank you all for coming out and for being such a wonderful audience, and safe return back to wherever you live.